Welcome to another episode of Community Chat. My name is Kevin Tocci, and I'm here to be your host for the next 30, 40 minutes. This is one of a series of shows that we're doing. 'Tis election season in the great town of Abington. And my job is to sit down, have conversations with the candidates. Not only are we going to be doing conversations with the candidates running for select board, but we're also planning on speaking with the folks who are running for school committee. And it's just so you're better informed as a voter when you go into the ballot box on April 25th. That's right. Don't forget, it's over down at the Beaverbrook. I'll remind you at the end of the program as well, if you're not sure of your voting status, what precinct you vote in, any of that information, reach out to Leanne or Barbara over at Town Hall and ask them. Stop by Town Hall, give them a call, and I'm sure they will do their best to help you with that information. Today, we're fortunate to be speaking with one of the candidates who is seeking a 3-year term on the select board. We have a former school committee person, Wendy Happel, joining us.
How you doing?
Wendy, welcome to Community Chat.
Thank you for having me.
I thought that you had been on previously, but you said nope. This is kind of your first.
This is my first time. I can't
Okay.
believe it. For as long as you've been at this.
Well, we can't assume that everybody knows who you are, especially for the folks who are new to Abington. If you would just briefly give us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. My name is Wendy Happel. I am married for 22 years. Also lived in Abington for 22 years. And I have a daughter. Her name's Caitlin. She's a sophomore at Suffolk University. She's studying political science. And she wants to be a lawyer someday.
Oh.
Yep. And she's doing great. And I have 3 fur babies. I work for a wire and cable distributor. I've been in like the office management administration field for 25 years. So, between the real estate field and now the electrical field, still, in the administration part of it. So, let's see what else. I was on school committee for 8 years. 2015 is when I first attempted to run. I did lose that seat to 2 incumbents. However, there was 2 people had quit school committee right after election, and so I was appointed to one of the seats to fill it out until the next election. So after that, I ran for a 1-year seat and won, and then I ran a couple additional times. And the last time I ran, I believe, was in 2020, and I ran unopposed. And I ran in 2017 unopposed as well.
What motivated you to run for the select board? What perspective and experience do you think you can bring to the position of select board?
Well, for the position of select board, I do know a lot about budgets, from my previous jobs and from where I am now, as well as the school committee. The school committee has the largest budget in town. So I managed that along with the rest of the school committee members, and we never got to the point that we're at now, with maybe expecting an override. So I think that I might be able to, give a little bit of input from that perspective. I don't know everything. I don't know everything that the town select board handles. However, I am ready to learn, and I always do my research. I always try to stay up late and go through everything and come up with all different scenarios and see what's out there that we might be able to use for resources, and just kind of get back and ask questions, just push back, ask questions, just try to get as much information out there to our community, and just try to always push back, basically. I always try to say that the school committee, they work for the town, for the residents, and that the superintendent works for the school committee, and I know with the town management that's a little bit different. The town manager basically makes the decisions with the select board, kind of given the okay to everything, where the school committee is a little bit opposite than that, where we have more control.
Okay. I think the town's financial situation is probably a very important issue. Aside from that, what do you feel are going to be some of the important issues that Abington is going to face over the next 3 years?
Well, selling the north and in center schools are huge. The Naval Air Base, trying to actually get some action in there so that we can get some revenue from there, I think would be huge. And I don't ever think that we have enough senior housing, ever. So I had told you previously that I took care of my grandmother for 13 years. She was in senior housing. I've seen all that they've gone through, and they don't have a lot of money, and they're on fixed income. So I think it's only going to get harder as so much gets more expensive, in town, so and in the state.
Abington, like many communities on the South Shore, are facing significant budget challenges. How would you approach managing the town's finances while also maintaining essential services, if you were able to have say?
Well, I think it's going to be really hard within the next 5 years or so, so we have a lot to come back from. I've always said for an override from the beginning, I would never personally vote for one, as a resident. As a select board member, I think that's a different hat that you have to wear, and it makes it harder because you're in charge of a whole town, or whether it's a school department or the town, that you have to look at your services, and they're important. We don't want to lose any of them, police and fire, and our teachers. So it's a different hat to wear. So I would probably be in support of that. I would have to, in order for our town to move forward. But in the future, I would absolutely see where we were going with everything first. I would have more. If 3 years is a lot, when you're in it. So I would have more of a view of what's going on. Just walking into it when we're basically at the end of getting into the big push of the 2.5, it makes it a little bit different. So I definitely think that any board now that were to go on there, they would have to go through every single line item and just make sure that we are on track for what we're supposed to be doing.
Okay. As you alluded to, the town is considering a $3.6 million Proposition 2.5 override. Do you support it? Do you not? And there's also a menu approach that's being taken to this. What are your thoughts on that?
I actually like the menu approach because it separates everything, where the police department and the school department, those are the biggest issues, I think, right now. So separating that so that, individuals feel more heard, rather than grouping it all into one, I think is better at this point. And what was the other question? My apologies.
Just what do you support the override?
So as I said, as a resident, as a taxpayer, I would always say no to an override. But as a select board member, that is a different hat, and that is, you have to consider the people in town and the services that they need. So I definitely would support police and fire because I think that it would be more expensive not to have them, with all of the police and the fire personnel that they need. So the school department, I feel like, is a little bit different. I did have a huge conversation with Felicia today, and I brought up everything. I was like, what about this? Why don't we get rid of this first? And so I see where she's coming from now, better than I did last week, I guess, and I know Felicia. I know how much our school department has always tried to get as much as they can from our budget with staying within it, you know? I mean, we went over everything today with the adjustment counselors, the teachers, the paras. You know, I was like, what about the professional development? You know, we can hold off on some things. What about some of the pilot programs that cost? So we went through everything, and I definitely have a better understanding of where she's coming from. And I absolutely know. I mean, I helped put Felicia where she is because I knew that when Peter Schaefer had left and retired, that we needed somebody with experience, because we couldn't afford to lose both at the same time. So I really think she's trying her best, and I know how much people are like, you know, they make so much money. This is how much money superintendents make, and we have to stay within the average of the rest of the towns. Otherwise, we're not going to have a decent or good superintendent. You know, you're going to get the bottom of the barrel, and I don't think our town wants that at all.
No, you want your best. You want the best and the brightest.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, there's a very real possibility if you're successful on April 25th. This is going to be something that you're going to have to deal with.
Yep.
If the override does not pass, what specific steps do you think the town will need to take, in your opinion?
Well, you know, it's going to be a shame to get rid of teachers. I hope that maybe we can reconsider some of those still, you know, maybe head towards administration, you know, maybe cutting down some hours or something. But it's going to be hard. But I know that other towns have been in this same spot before, you know, and it's definitely been worse in other towns at certain periods of time. So I think that maybe volunteering, you know, having more parent volunteers in the classrooms. That's what we used to do when my daughter was in elementary school. There was a lot of parents that were in the schools and helping, and so I don't think they needed maybe as many paras as they do now. I think that around 2017, 18, it wasn't just us, but it was like the state trying to cut parent ties to schools, and I think bringing that back, having our seniors, I mean, they're bored or they don't have a lot going on. If maybe we can incorporate them into our school system, they would love to be around the preschoolers and the kindergartners and, you know, helping them read and reading them books and everything. That is huge. My Nana always did that with my daughter when she was young, and she learned so much from her.
Well, it's funny you mention that because I have a couple of students that work here in the studio, and I'm amazed at, and I'll have to do more research on this, but I've had interns who have a limited knowledge of cursive. I've even had one intern who admitted that he might have missed the day that they showed him the hands on the clock and how that worked. And I'm like, you're kidding.
No.
And, you know, and I even had one intern question, like, why do we need cursive? I'm like, what do you mean?
Right.
So it's interesting. Well, you know, again, it seems as though you kind of have a grasp when we're talking about the budget. Talk to me about services. You know, if tough decisions need to be made, what should be prioritized and what should be protected, and what should be maybe considered something that can be, you know, maybe picked up at a later date when the resources are more plentiful.
Right. So I think police and fire, you can't ever get rid of our police and fire, or, you know, any employees from that. I mean, there's just so much, I'm not saying Abington, but there's just crime everywhere. And there's just a lot going on these days. So I think getting rid of police and fire would not be a good idea, especially putting them into overtime. It just makes it, obviously it's more expensive, but it's also a lot of pressure on, you know, the individual and their families too, by not being home. So definitely police and fire, I would not be able to get rid of. As far as cuts, maybe we would have to cut down some time at town hall, unfortunately, you know, or maybe we would have to even cut like some library hours, you know. I mean, I know. It's not easy. It's not something that I would ever want to see. But you've got to take away the little things that like maybe wouldn't be as hurtful, you know what I mean? And everything is hurtful right now. People love the library, you know, people need to go to town hall.
It's a hell of a resource.
Right. I mean, but if we're trying to cut costs,
Right.
I don't want to cut something that is so important. You know, we can go to another library and get a book. We can't go to another town and get a police officer.
The town manager, Mike Maresco, when he did his budget presentation for the select board and for the public, one of the things that he had mentioned, he's like, we got to look at everything here.
Oh, trash.
We'll get to that. It's on the list. He had mentioned regionalized services.
Oh, that's definitely.
What are your thoughts about regionalized? Are there certain services that could be regionalized? Or do you feel that residents, that they wouldn't necessarily, I mean.
I think that's a good idea, especially being a small town. If we were a huge city, I think that would be a different story, you know, because it would be harder to get other places. But I think, you know, our town is small. Whitman's right next door, Rockland's right next door, Holbrook, you know, and they're kind of an extension of us, if you think about it anyway, you know, or have been in the past. So I think that doing a regionalized service would be a good idea, you know, just like what we did with our dispatching with Holbrook. I mean, it seems to be working out. I believe. I haven't heard different. So I think that might be a really good idea, you know, if we could split some time between other towns.
How about as far as, other than increasing taxes, nobody likes to see their taxes go up. What are some creative ways that the town can be able to pursue more revenue, increased revenue? Any thoughts at all in this area?
I mean, I would love to see the center and north schools sold. I was on the surplus land committee twice for our excess buildings and land in town, and you know, it's a shame that they've been sitting for so long. I understand the asbestos. There are grants that I've looked into. I have talked to Mike, and the planning board has pursued a couple of those as well, so that's good to hear. As far as, you know, asbestos remediation, and there's different grants that the state has that we are trying to qualify for. So I think that might be a really good idea. I know that they're trying to put those two schools out to bid again. I would love to see senior housing at both of those. There's never enough. There's never enough. I mean, I'm actually helping my uncle right now for the last couple of months trying to get into senior housing. It's a year wait or more. And he put his name in that he will live anywhere. So, and that's still a year wait or more. So it's hard. I mean, our seniors, I don't even want our seniors, honestly, I don't even want our seniors paying for healthcare. I don't think that they should. They've done their time, you know. So it's different. It's a shame what's going on in the town. I really don't want to see it like this. And I think that's, you know, if we weren't like this, there'd probably be more people stepping up to be on the select board. But nobody wants this. It's a lot right now, you know. I mean, it's a lot of pressure and it's a lot of criticism, and no one's going to be happy. Nobody at all is going to be happy the next couple of years. There's just no way. There's no way around it.
Let's stay with you. You mentioned seniors. The town has a growing senior population. Do you feel that the town does enough for our older residents? Do you think that there are services or additional programs that can be offered to help them?
Well, yes and no. So I feel like our senior center does amazing work. I know how much the woman that leads that charge, she has been there forever.
Kudos to Amy.
Amy is
and Suzanne
amazing.
Before
exactly.
her.
I know how much they care for our seniors, and I've actually been involved in the past with Meals on Wheels. I used to help deliver them when I was, I did it for a couple of years, maybe a little less than 2 years or so, only on Mondays, and then when they needed to fill in, that's when I was able to work from home. So, you know, but I would actually love to see the Meals on Wheels program is a great program, but the food quality isn't very good. My grandmother had gotten Meals on Wheels, and we actually had to tell them, please don't send it anymore, because she was a diabetic, and I know they give you certain foods and everything, but I would love to see us be able to do something like that in-house. You know, maybe our high school, we have a cafeteria there. Is there something that we might be able to do? Would we be able to get compensated from the state if we, you know, did our own Meals on Wheels? I'm not sure. I know that we always had volunteers, never enough volunteers. So if anybody else could get out there and, you know, reach out to Amy and see what can I do to help. That's huge. And as far as, you know, transportation for them, I can't even tell you how many times I've seen seniors. We don't have a bus stop here, but my Nana was from Quincy. They would be waiting at the bus stop in the winter, you know, or when it's raining. That's hard on somebody. So, you know, if we had more volunteers that were willing to take people to their appointments and bring them places, I think that would be great. I know that we do have our van that does that, but, you know, maybe having somebody that's more accessible, you know, not saying anything about Amy, but an additional person like that would just volunteer, you know. I mean, whether it's a high school student, because they always need the hours, you know, if they're a National Honor Society, or a lonely person. I hope they know that there's seniors out there that would absolutely could use their help. So yeah, I don't ever think we do enough for seniors. I've seen their struggle, but I don't know how much more the town can do on its own right now without volunteerism.
Okay. Another group that I want to make sure we mention
The veterans.
Is veterans. I will say that they have an individual, an Adam Gunn.
He's great.
Director of Veteran Services who goes above and beyond, and every time you turn around, there is something that is on social media that he's able to ask an organization.
Yep, he's not afraid.
He's not afraid, and he does great work. And he you know, the first Wednesday of the month, he's at Martin's.
Yep.
And the veterans from not only Abington, but the surrounding communities are there, and he talks about the benefits, and not to mention that they got the Veterans Council that does a great job. Recently showing up on WCVB's Chronicle as some of the work that they're doing for the sign toppers. Are there other things, though, that maybe it's not part of our purview, but maybe you're aware of, or that maybe you've heard that we could do additional for our veterans, those who have served our country?
Well, first I want to say I appreciate every veteran. I thank them for their service. Adam Gunn is amazing. Just a side note, when my daughter was in high school, she was in a leadership class, and she had taken on...
Jason Scott?
Yes, actually. So within that class, she had done a pancake breakfast for the veterans, and so that's when we had initially met Adam Gunn. I cooked some pancakes, and we had great conversations that day, and my daughter ended up, the money that she raised from that day, she went in with Adam Gunn, and they did the POW tables. Right. So at Martin's, there is a POW table that my daughter Caitlin helped bring in, and I was at Martin's one day when the veterans were there, and the table was shown to everyone. She actually was really lucky. She got a citation from the state rep, Allison Sullivan. Yeah, for doing this, because she put some of these POW tables around town at other restaurants, at the superintendent's office, and a couple other nearby towns as well. So, you know, having her get in touch with Adam, that was really a good experience. You know, I wish more kids would be able to do that. I was an Army brat. My dad served overseas. He served in the United States Army. I was born in Hawaii. I lived in Maryland, Delaware, California. Goodness. So yeah, I've been everywhere. My parents are originally from Quincy. So, you know, I get service. I understand it. I loved being an Army brat. I loved moving around. And yeah, I did. Being the new kid. You know, and I just want to say too, those flags that they put up are amazing, because I've seen them in other towns. Yeah. I didn't realize how many we actually had, how many individuals. So this is awesome to see.
A lot of research went into that.
Absolutely, yeah. I saw that. Yeah. So, you know, veterans, I feel bad for, because you see so many homeless veterans. You see a lot of veterans that have suffered from mental illness, from, you know, being in wars, or just the pressure of, you know, everything that they've gone through. So I would love to see more mental health services for them. I would love to see additional housing for them. And there's just never enough that we could ever do for our seniors and our veterans, you know? I mean, and having young kids get involved so that they understand, I think some of that's gotten lost, you know, because when I was younger, a lot of people had parents that were in the service. Now it's very rare that you see somebody. So I think for kids to get back into that and, you know, learn what our veterans have gone through and what our seniors do, you know, it kind of puts perspective back in that these kids, you know, they think that they're growing up and, you know, everything's great. But you get older and you'll see that things are a lot different. And, you know, you're gonna need these people. So,
good point. Let's talk water.
Water.
A few questions about water. Water is a major issue that's tied to the future development in Abington. What approach do you think the town should take to ensure that there's enough water supply while also managing growth?
So the water has always been an issue in town for as long as I've been here. I think I'm kind of lucky where I am that I don't see the brown water, but I hear about it. I've seen it on Facebook. My friends have it.
The quality of water?
The quality,
Okay.
right. I would honestly never drink our water. I don't even give it to my animals. So I always give them fresh water. So it's definitely nerve-wracking when you think about it because water is what you need for life, you know? So maybe looking into the MWRA and moving away from the Abington Rockland Waterworks might be a good idea. I think that we need to definitely open up some of our, you know, look for other resources might be. To be quite honest with you, I'm not 100%, no, I don't know 100% about our water, but as a select board member, I would absolutely put myself out there to know as much as I can and fight for our town to get the best water that we can get. Nobody should have bad water, you know? I mean, this is, you drink it, you eat it, you put it in your food, you cook with it, like you bathe in it, you brush your teeth. I mean, there's so much, and if you don't have good quality water, then that puts, we can get sick. I mean, nobody wants to be sick. So I would love to see maybe opening up to the MWRA and just seeing what our other options out there are. I know the Naval Air Base, you know, they're talking about bringing in water.
Yep.
So would they be able to help the people that own the air base? Yep. Maybe.
Yeah. So the Joint Waterworks did recently meet and had that conversation. They had a major developer come in, talk about, you know, the anticipation. You could go with the MWRA, and according to their individuals, it would be 6 to 8 years to be able to get the MWRA hookup. I think 6 years for the hookup, and then another 2 years for development in the base area alone. But then there was discussion about, do you go to the city of Brockton,
right,
who actually has access and a contract with a desalination plant down in Dighton? Do you go with that? Do you hook up in Brockton and run it in? What are your thoughts about that as an option?
I think that we look into it. Absolutely, I think we should look into it. I mean, if we don't do something in 6 to 8 years, it's going to be an additional 6 to 8 years. You know what I mean? So we have to do something now within this next year because it's only getting worse and we're only growing. You know, so there's more and more, you know, development, and we want more development in town. So we have to fix our water to be able to get more residents and more revenue with commercial.
And while we're talking about the Naval Air Station, talk to me about the regional implications. What are your thoughts as far as the opportunities or concerns you see as Abington looks to develop their parcel of land? We know that right now you got yet another developer who's in. If anybody who went to the Waterworks meeting, the gentleman from the SRO stepped up and said, you know, it's great now that we get this developer who's in now, this master developer, because the previous master developer, you know, to paraphrase here, was that they weren't on the up and up per se. Give me your thoughts as far as opportunities or concerns when it comes to developing that. What would you like to see Abington's parcel in develop as, if you had any say?
If I had any say,
You had say.
it would be a huge entertainment complex, probably. Maybe a casino, a stadium, something that would attract a lot of, a lot of revenue and a lot of people. I think with the two different directions of getting out of Union Point, we have 18, and then you have Route 3, then on the other side you have Rockland that people can get in and out of. I think that we have to develop it. Like, there's a lot of residential apartments in there and condos already that aren't fully filled. So, I don't know, by adding more. I mean, look at all the retail space that's in there has never been filled up, So, and I've been on school committee a long time, that there's actually been a few developers that have gone in and out of there, So it's always the same. Everybody says that this is it, and it's not it. So, I mean, we need somebody that's absolutely serious, that can reach out and, is FIFA around? I don't know. Like, do they want a stadium? We have the space. So I think that we definitely need to get more commercial or industrial business out there. Okay.
Let's talk schools. I know you kind of teased and touched upon it. You've already had a conversation with Felicia. As you've alluded to, as folks know, that schools do make up a significant portion of the town's budget. How should the select board work with the school district to address these financial challenges while supporting teachers and the students and the paraprofessionals?
Right. It's so hard right now, because the schools, there's a lot that goes on in the schools. I mean, since COVID, our kids aren't kind of maybe developing the same, is the right word? I'm not sure. But, they're a little bit more immature these days. They have more issues these days. There's more anxiety. COVID really messed our kids up. And, being able to socialize and get themselves out there. So, I think staying on top of it, I feel like our school committee, I know that they have definitely tried with pushback. I'm sure with it. And Felicia is definitely one that will look at every single spot that she can to take money away from something without it affecting our kids directly. So our kids, we need reading, math, what is it? The 3 R's. I would love to see us, go back to that point where we're just focusing on that. And, maybe, but we need adjustment counselors these days. And it's unfortunate, because there's so much anxiety that has happened over the years. And, home life isn't how it was maybe when we were growing up, So, it's a shame that some of the services that we didn't have to have when we were growing up. So, that's more money that is put elsewhere now. So it's all we can do is just keep our eye on things and make sure that it doesn't get out of control. I would love to see us go back to cursive as well, as you said.
Okay. Knowing that earlier on in the conversation you had mentioned about the town trying to do something with selling the north and central schools. And what I'm about to say to you is that it's been suggested, right now we're in the middle of building a new DPW and fire station, that complex. But the next project on the horizon would be to possibly replace the Beaverbrook and or Woodsdale School. Maybe it'd be a combination to replace those two properties. What are your thoughts on such a project like that, knowing that the Beaverbrook is an older, out of date type of building to replace it and have a modern day elementary school?
I don't think that's anything that we can think about right now,
okay.
And probably not for the next. Not even in 5 years. We have to overcome where we're at right now, and we have to use the resources that we have. The building is still standing. They've done a ton of updates to the building, so I know the quality is better than the wood steel roof and everything. But we just have to live within our means for right now.
Okay, let's talk trash. I know that at last year's town meeting, it was brought up by the previous town manager, Scott Limbiacy, that something needed to be done to kind of contain the cost of trash. This is a concern. Are there changes that you believe Abington can consider regarding trash services and the cost, tipping fees, anything like that?
I mean, I think maybe we would have to consider, and I'm not saying that we need to do this, but to open everybody's eyes, is it, pay by bag? I know that would be like over $1 million savings. So I don't know the ins and outs of it. Would that give us, access to being able to bring our own trash, and then we wouldn't have to pay for large items anymore? I'm not sure. But our trash issue, I mean, the trash company that picks up our stuff, I want to say I don't see any issues. They always are there on time. I never see any problems with that. But, I think we have to look at everything. There's no stone that can be unturned when you're in a predicament like this. You have to open up your eyes, and, you have to take away the little things that you can, even if it's only a few bucks. That few bucks adds up, over time. So maybe a pay by bag. There are other towns that do it, and they've saved. I know it's a pain in the butt for some people. So it's just something that we might have to look into.
Okay. Let's talk public safety, police, fire, emergency services. They're a core responsibility for the town. Do you believe these departments have the resources that they need? Give me your thoughts on this. Again, we know that that there's a good portion of the override that's going to be able to preserve what Chief Bonnie has put in place, and Chief Glynn and his department. Talk to me about that.
Well, police and fire are the most important things that you have in your town, because you want to keep your town safe, and you want to make sure that your buildings are safe. So I would love to see just less overtime by having more individuals. As far as the fire station itself, I know that there was a big thing about that. I want people to know that and this coming from my perspective, I was totally against rebuilding a fire station at the beginning. I was like, why can't we just use Route 18, maybe take over some businesses, that are next door, and then just expand a little bit. But I was lucky enough that I was able to tour the fire stations, and I saw we are not up to date at all.
No.
Our firemen, they were eating next to where they were, their contaminated things were. Yeah. Nobody wants to go. Nobody should have to do that. They work too hard and do too much for our town. So I actually was on the fire station committee in the beginning, and the DPW came into that as well as, because they needed more space. So having it moved to a centralized location, I think, is a great idea. There's never enough services for any of our veterans, seniors, and our police and fire. You know what I mean? Like they need everything to protect themselves, or the learning that they have to do, because people are getting crazier in this world. So, you got to keep up to date on all your education, and you have to keep up to date on all the new fire safety and their equipment. So there's just no way that we could ever do anything that would not help them to advance and make our town safer.
Okay. Let's talk about local government. Transparency in local government, I feel, is paramount.
Absolutely.
To residents. What steps would you take to ensure that the select board communicates clearly and openly with the public?
Well, I like now that there's a Facebook page for the town services, so people know exactly what's going on. And I feel like the website has been updated as well, more than it ever has in the past. So for me, I think that you always have to be transparent, and you always have to advocate for, your people, and you have to be transparent. Nothing should ever be hush hush or go behind the scenes. Like, everything should be out in the open. We're all in this together. Is this, you know, I mean, this is we all pay the same residential tax rate, you know, so we all want to see our services and our children and our schools do well. So I think that just in the past, I know that, you know, the other town manager, maybe it was the lack of experience or something, you know, and with the select board, I'm not sure. But I think that our town manager now has been very transparent. I think that he's doing what he can to ensure that he's very open with the board. And I feel like that the board, the two individuals that are left on it are very open, and they're kind of green too, you know what I mean? So they're going to ask questions. They're going to want to put everything out there. I know Nicole for sure, and from what I've heard from from Paul, that, you know, they're both very much like that, you know. I think that this would be a different board than you've ever seen before. You know, whether it's me or Bill or Dan, I think we all understand that transparency is huge with our town, and you have to take responsibility.
Okay. Some residents are suggesting that the timing of select board meetings could be more accessible.
Yeah.
Would you support changing meeting times or formats to encourage greater public participation?
Absolutely. I have a full-time job. I work 8 to 5. I can't be a select board member and, you know, for free, and then leave my work for a couple hours and, you know, no, absolutely. It should be at night. It should be a couple times a month at least, depending on what's going on. I would definitely say we need to get back into the twice a month, sometime after 6:30, or whether it's 7, but it has to be where more individuals will be either able to watch it or attend. There's no way this 10 o'clock in the morning stuff is, I understand maybe from their perspective because, you know, there was things going on with individuals maybe, I'm not sure, that were on the board, but there's just no way we can continue to do that. Okay.
We are at the point in our conversation where I basically ask you, is there something that we haven't discussed or that I haven't mentioned, or maybe there's something that we've talked about and maybe you might want to expand upon further?
Well, I mean, I just want people to know that I don't know everything about being on select board, you know? I don't think anybody does, that is, except for Ken Coyle, because he's been there, done that, you know, and we need somebody like Kenny on select board because he has the experience, you know? I mean, just being able to run the meetings and know how, how everything's supposed to flow. So I just want people to know that I don't know everything, but I will do my research. I will make sure that nothing flies by me. It's one thing with school committee, nothing flew by me. You know, I can always tell when something's a little off. You know, I think I'm a really good judge of character. So I don't put up with the bull. And I am mouthy. I am loud sometimes, you know, I am out there. Sometimes I don't think before I speak, but that's who I am. I'm trying to curb that a little bit, but nothing will fly by me. So I want people to know that. I'll definitely do everything I can. And no matter what I'm doing, I always put my best foot forward and put everything that I have into it. So I just want people to know, you know, whether it's me or Bill or Dan, whoever you choose, there's, you know, 3 seats, there's 2 seats and 3 of us. So one of us is going to be disappointed, but there's always next year. And I think that just whoever you end up putting in this seat, I really hope that they are doing it. I think we're all doing it for the right reasons. You know, we don't get paid for this, you know, so anybody that put themselves out there, it's because we want to help. So I just want people to, you know, just pick the best person that they can, that will, you know, do the job for Abington, you know, not so much as personalities, they're always going to clash, but it's what you put into the job that you do.
Okay. Folks want to find out more about you other than this interview.
Okay.
Whether you have a Facebook page, whether you have an email address or a website, how can folks find out more, or maybe even reach out to you?
Sure. Well, people can always reach me. My phone number has always been out there for people, 617-529-5889. My email address is wjhappels@verizon.net. Nobody even has a Verizon email address anymore. That's how long I've had it. I also have a Facebook page. It's Wendy Happel, candidate for Abington Select Board. I don't have a website. I don't plan on, honestly, spending any money. I don't plan on asking anyone for money. That's not what I've ever done for school when I was on school committee. You know, I feel like if I get my face out there, I get my name out there, the people that know me know that I put everything that I can into the job that I'm doing. So hopefully people see that and, you know, they give me a chance.
Well, I want to thank you for taking time out to come in here and have a conversation with me, talk about some of the issues. And I wish you and all the candidates the best of luck.
Thank you so much, Kevin. I appreciate it. Thanks for all you do.
You got
You're a great
Thank
guy.
You. Appreciate it. I want to thank you for tuning in to a program like Community Chat. The idea is to keep you, to help you be informed when it comes time on April 25th to go to the Beaver Brook and cast your vote for one of the three candidates that are seeking the 3-year term. If you don't know where you stand or what your status is, when it comes to voting, contact the folks in the town clerk's office. I'm pretty sure that Leanne or Barbara will do their best to help you and assist you and give you all the information that you need. Until our next conversation, have yourself a great day.